Welcome to Leading Ideas. I'm Skip Everitt, your commentator and your host for this series. It's my pleasure today to have my host, Tim Broom from New Horizons here. And I'm going to ask Tim a couple of questions about both how this has all developed as a successful business and how he's responded to this volatile economy that we've been experiencing the last couple of years. So first things first would be, what's the purpose of this company, of New Horizons?
Tell you a brief little history about New Horizons. It's a franchise organization that's about almost 30 years old. International company, about 150 locations in the United States. It's been right at 10 years ago that we started the franchise here in Gainesville. I started with my wife. And what we do is we train people on applications like Microsoft Office, Adobe products, Crystal Reports, as well as Microsoft Technical, Cisco Technical, things like that. On a daily basis, we have classes that run a day or a week. But when you talk about what the purpose is we really change people's lives by making them more valuable and more productive, and therefore getting a return for the company that invests in the training for the people, or a person who invests in themselves so they can have a different career path.
Right, so your training really opens up opportunities for people and makes them more visible to employers.
Yes, correct.
Because of this new resume that they have now. Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. How did you become the leader of this organization? I know you said you bought it as a franchise, but maybe a better question is, how do you lead?
Learn from mistakes. Obviously, you're probably the default leader as the person that starts the organization. But I can say from my track record, I spent about 12 years in transportation, and I worked up within management. And fortunately, I was with a couple of great companies that had management training programs, and I had some fantastic mentors within those organizations that really made an impact on my life. And I saw things that were right, and I saw things that were wrong. And I always said, if I ever wanted to have a company, I would want to do these things for the team. Right. And it's those things, and there are some mistakes. Fortunately, none of them that are tragic or that didn't really kill us, I would say. Right. But we learn from our mistakes, and I've had people like you in the past that have consulted with me and mentored with me over the years to help me through certain challenges.
Thank you. Tell me about some of the key learnings that you've experienced as your growth as a leader and CEO.
Key learnings. Mm-hmm. I would probably say that happy employees, keeping your team happy, make sure that they're fulfilled and challenged is the biggest asset that we have. Unfortunately, technology is ever changing and always growing, so there's always new challenges for people. And I found that when people tend to be bored or complacent because they don't have new challenges, then the overall effectiveness of morale and the culture begins to change. Mm-hmm. And if we can always stay pushing to the next level, pushing to get, whether it might be something like a ranking within Microsoft, a ranking within New Horizons networks, it's those things that I believe that keep us going. And that's really what drives us as a sales team and as an instructor team. It's those things that help us push.
Great, thank you. I appreciate the example you just gave. I've been talking from time to time about having that kind of big rolling goal in an organization to keep people motivated. Sounds like you all are always working on the next goal.
Correct.
The next goal, complete the goal, go to the next one. It's ever changing. I appreciate that. How have you survived and even thrived during the last 2 years?
Boy, obviously a challenge. I don't think anybody was anticipating what came with the markets. I will say that education typically is somewhat cyclical with the economy. During economic downturns, people usually turn towards education to make themselves more valuable so they can improve their life of them and their family. What happened simultaneously with this economic downturn is the financial markets began to deteriorate. And when people tend to go back to school, they don't have the cash to pay for it, that they have to get like a student loan. And New Horizons is not an accredited institution like a 2-year or 4-year school, so we rely on a different type of financing for our career loans. And people's credit scores, as people were reducing line of credits, because banks were trying to reduce their liabilities, impacted people's credit scores because their debt to income or debt to balance to available was reduced. So scores were being really depressed, and they raised their standards significantly, like on a FICO score.
Sure.
And debt to income type things. So it was really hard to get students to be able to get the funding to be able to enroll. So our enrollment went way down from averaging maybe 12 students in a class to 6. Now I have to pay the instructor the same, the building the same, the computers, the classroom, everything's the same, but I have half as many students. So it's certainly been a challenge. Some of the things that we did is we came up with a business plan and a business model, and we started our own career financing company.
Right.
And we organized it, and it's gone really well. It's been about 8 months, and it continues to grow each and every month. That's one way that we've changed. Some of the other things are when you start looking at business expenses. I was towards the end of a lease that was 7 years, and I had to look for a different type property to reduce my overhead. First thing to do is start looking at expenses. I made the commitment. We had employee meetings often, and we talked about the financial health of the company and our P&L and expenses, and I looked for input from them where we can potentially save without reducing the quality of what we do. And one of the first things we did that made the major impact is we located this new facility. The facility was certainly at the right price. Fortunately for us, the real estate market was also depressed at the right time. And I was able to negotiate something that was great here and rent-free for 12 months if I were to pay for the build-out. So, I had to come up with the cash in order to build it out, but I didn't have to pay rent for the first year. Those sort of things, as far as asking people that were hourly, can we go to 35 hours as opposed to 40? What ways can we cut without reducing the front-facing customer experience? And I think making those decisions on making those cuts without reducing the customer's experience. We want to always give the customer the best. Let's find the ways to do that first. And I think we were successful. Fortunately, there's been some special programs from the government through either the Workforce Reinvestment Act, the American Recovery Act, and some special military programs for spouses, to where my revenues for the first 3 quarters of the fiscal year compared to the same 3 quarters of the previous year were doubled.
Wow.
So it's fortunate, but it's come from a lot of hard work and sacrifices from people trying to do the thing to make it happen.
Great, thank you. I think we just heard a book. I'm not sure. My friends, did you learn from that what some businesses have done? And let me summarize a couple of things I heard, and then you chime in with me here. I heard employee involvement in problem solving and in the problem itself, the hard part of that. Number 2, looking at expenses and having them help you with doing that. Number 3, re-looking at customer needs. And number 4, and looking at the problem of financing it. And what I think is so brilliant here is that you came up with the Bank of Tim.
Pretty much, we call it Mary May Financial.
Right.
But that's the idea.
Very creative, and what a good thing to do. Plus, you were indeed in the right place at the right time with technology that was growing and was still needed. That didn't stop happening. You had some help from some incentive programs, but I think what you did internally, everything from making the move to this facility to thinking strategically as well as tactically, even in the worst of times, I think is a great lesson to all of our viewers and listeners here.
And I give full credit to our team that we have here, because even with the workforce money or the Reinvestment Act money that people were putting in and the government money, if you didn't find solutions and work with them to have the outcomes that's desired, it wasn't going to be successful, and we wouldn't have access to those funds for our students. And when you compare it to other New Horizons, there were some that weren't as effective than we were, and we were very fortunate in that way. But it's our team here that found ways to make it happen, and that's probably the biggest impact. You've got to have those people on the team. What's the people on the bus, but they got to be in the right seat.
Right.
Moving those people around to make that happen. It wasn't me, it was really our team.
Great. Well, thank you for appearing on this and for hosting
My pleasure.
This program.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to be here, and this company is an asset to this community.
Thank you.
And that makes a terrific difference. So thanks again.
Thanks. Very nice.
Thank you for joining us for Leading Ideas, and we'll see you next time.